Coming to you live from Central Florida using a virtual set which comes out of Central Illinois. This is Freedom, Speech, and You with your host, Ken. Hi, I'm Ken and welcome to Freedom, Speech, and You. Thought I would throw something new in there for you this week. Hey, how are you doing this week? For starters, I'm going to say hello to WW, Rosebud, and Andrea, who are our early arrivals, and surely we'll have other people popping in here shortly. So let's get into topics right away. Last week, Wes sent me something through Facebook. It is going to start us off for today. It is a video with Cindy McCain. She's the World Food Program Executive Director. It was her full interview on Face the Nation. So I'm guessing that Wes, really liked this issue, wanted to talk about world hunger. So let me just prep this video for air. Let me get it ready to present. Probably not much to comment on this video. So, but this is Cindy McCain on Face the Nation last week. So let's go with it.
We turn now to Cindy McCain, the Executive Director of the World Food Program. Good to have you here in the U.S. I know you were in New York to testify to the UN Security Council about what's happening in Somalia and the famine-like conditions there. You said your agency won't have the funding to feed almost 3 million children, women, and men. Why not? Why is it spiraling?
Well, first of all, thank you for covering this. This is an important topic and the world needs to hear about it. There are a lot of fires in the world right now. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of countries that are in deep distress, Somalia being one of them. And so we're spread pretty thin right now. And so to be able to continue the work that we do, obviously we need more help, but we need the world to pay attention to us also and make sure that people understand it's not just a security crisis in Somalia, it's a humanitarian crisis as well.
I know you're talking about, in a diplomatic term, donor fatigue.
Yeah.
Is it just a funding shortage, or is there something more?
No, by donor fatigue, I mean countries have really stepped up to play most recently, especially in the case of Ukraine. And people are now, countries are kind of stepping back saying, you know, we gave unprecedented amounts last year. We don't have the kind of funding this year, and they're a little tired. And so I certainly understand that. I don't accept it, obviously. That's why I'm here. But I understand that people do look at things differently. More importantly, the most important thing to remember here is that there are women and children who are going to starve unless we do step up to the plate.
That's typical, though, to have donor fatigue. You know, if you see the same spot telling you to feed somebody, for instance, you're going to say, well, haven't they raised enough money for this yet? So that's typical of humans, really, it is.
I know you recently lost some employees in Sudan, where the United States has pulled out because of the violence there. Are you still able to feed people despite the war?
Well, we never left Sudan. We stalled for a little bit. We paused for a few days because you're correct. We did lose 3 people there. And we had to evacuate our other citizens, our other nationals, as well as our international people out. But we never left. And so we are now, again, we're back in, we're distributing food. Again, reminding everyone it's extraordinarily dangerous there right now. So our methods and how we're doing it are a little bit different. But we also have asked the UN to please guarantee us a humanitarian corridor for us to be able to work and operate so we can deliver our food. It's a combination and a very it's a combination of problems, and it's also very severe impact by the fact that the security issue is so strong there right now, and it's so difficult for us to work.
You know, picking up on what you were talking about in regard to funding.
It's always difficult to work in a place where a war is going on, so it can't be easy to work in Ukraine either at all.
I know the U.S. is the largest financial donor to the World Food Program and the UN, having given $7.2 billion, more than all other donors combined last year. Meanwhile, the world's second largest economy, China, gave $11 million. How receptive is Beijing to your requests?
So notice the difference there. $7.2 billion versus 11 million, a significant difference. Very, very significant difference. U.S. gives a lot more funding.
Well, I'd like to encourage Beijing to get involved and be a part of this. We need, not only do we need their funding, but we need their expertise on many things. Their technology with regards to agriculture and the technology with regards to climate change can be very helpful in these countries that are really struggling with drought and lack of food, et cetera. And by the way, I'm so proud of the United States. We're always the first one to step up, and we always do so in a major way. And I'm very proud of that, being a U.S. citizen, of course.
Well, on China, though, is the issue that the government wants credit?
So you disagree with her, Andrea? You don't believe that we step up quite so much as we should? Or you don't agree with her assessment of China? Because I did find that interesting that she was trying to say that China was good on things that would protect the environment and stuff. That just kind of seemed strange to me, for her to make such a statement. WW says the Chinese have plenty of starvation within their own borders. They have to import most of their food. Yes, they do.
And so therefore they want to do it under their own flag and not through the international system, which you represent?
I think to some degree you're correct on that. I think it's also just a willingness to be a part of working together as a team worldwide. In these countries that we're in, one agency cannot do the job. We need partnerships. And so we encourage the Chinese, and we encourage many other countries around the world to partner with us so that we can help feed people that are in such desperate need, and also build resilience in many of these countries so that they can learn to feed themselves and can do so not only to support their own families, but to support the communities that they're in.
That's definitely true. You can't expect one agency to do it all. You have to have cooperation. You have to get people to work together. It takes people from all countries that can support these things to keep things going.
In the U.S., we've been having a lot of debates in Washington, as I'm sure you know, about funding and cutting back on future funding. That's going to get hot in the fall again. How concerned are you that the United States is going to have to pull back?
Well, of course, I'm concerned about it. And so that makes my job a little more difficult in this. I want to make sure that every member of Congress understands what's at stake if we were to pull out or pull back on things. It's important that people understand that not only are people hungry and starving, but the ability to be able to maintain a country who is not only hungry, starving, but also drought stricken or bashed by climate change and bashed by insecurity. These are risks that worldwide can really make a difference to an entire region. So we're looking at regions of Africa and regions of other parts of the world who are not only desperate but we could lose them. And what we don't want are people having to once again migrate, leave their homes and run to another place so that they can try to feed themselves and feed their families.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading the chat and I'm seeing Doesn't matter, Wes. China does not need to be involved in this as they're not part of the UN agency, period. Okay, is World Food Program actually a UN agency, excuse me. So it's World Food Program. Okay, it is the United Nations agency. Okay, I can see your comment then, Andrea. But WW says the people we do not wish to support through UNICEF or the combatants, including those in Ukraine and Africa. I presume you mean those who are trying to take over Ukraine, in other words, Russians, or those working for the Russians, and those who are trying to take over Africa. Not sure who you mean. Jim says many of these poor countries can't feed their people, also have prohibitions against abortion. They need to curtail their populations that they haven't the ability to feed. I agree that they do need to do something to curtail their populations. They're out of control with growth. Andrea says, I don't mind UNICEF stepping in and helping these poor countries. I'm all for that, but I'm not for is Cindy McCain thinking that China is going to be interested in it. They're not. Correct. WW says, if the governments take the food from the UN, they use it to feed their army first. Jim says, it's not like this severe famine is a new development. It's been going on for decades. Andrea says, China can't even take care of their own people. What makes you guys think, or Cindy McCain think, that China is going to step up and help another country because they're poor and they're not? I agree. So
those things are connected. I hear your argument there. You know, in the room, when you are trying to pitch the Security Council, you are looking at the United States, you are talking to China, you're also talking to Russia, in addition to some other members. But I want to pick up specifically on the Kremlin, because they said this past week there were no grounds to extend the Black Sea Grain Initiative. That is the deal under which Russia agreed to allow grain to leave the ports of Ukraine, a country it is militarily occupying. That's arguably weaponizing food. What's the impact if that deal goes away?
Right now, our new and improved solar generator is back in stock after selling
sorry
out in
about
just
these
11
ads.
days.
Well, the impact is, again, we're short on grain. And what does that mean? It affects a large portion of Africa. We're also short on fertilizer. Fertilizer is the other half of this that's supposed to be coming out. And so without the fertilizer, in many cases, they're not going to be able to grow crops that are as large or as productive as they could be. For all the things that are going on, I truly wish that we could end this war so that we could begin again to feed people around the world, and so that the Ukrainians can also feed themselves. What's at stake here is starvation and famine. That's what we're looking at.
Well, there were just a number of African leaders who flew.
Jim says not to worry, though. These countries are exporting their diseases to the U.S., and with all of our science deniers, this will cut back on our population as well. Unfortunately, in some respects, yes, Jim. WW says China wants to be a world leader, but is already importing food and knows how difficult it had been to get at the beginning of the war. Andrea says, don't get me wrong. I feel bad for these poor countries. There needs to be something to do and make sure the people of these countries get the food, not the governments. Yeah, that's always the challenge, is to get the food to the people and to not allow the governments to use it as a tool for their own means.
To Ukraine and then on to Russia to talk about this, because the entire continent of Africa has been impacted by
Andrea
these
says she's
issues
lost her
linked to the
ever-loving
war.
mind. Yes.
Is there a contingency plan
does
in
seem
place
strange.
if this grain initiative goes away?
Well, first of all, I welcome everyone talking about this issue, and I'm grateful that countries were getting together to discuss just this issue. Again, as I said before, there's an awful lot at stake, and it's primarily malnutrition. We could lose generations of children by just such a thing, where we're unable to feed, unable to offer fertilizers and more. That's why we need to work together as a world community to make sure that we can help not just feed people, but make sure people can remain safe and remain in their countries so they can feed themselves.
Are you optimistic that perhaps China could persuade Russia to allow grain and fertilizer to come out of Ukraine?
I don't know on that. Listen, I work on a daily basis just trying to feed people. I would hope that everyone would see the importance of feeding starving people.
I wish everyone would too. WW says, yes, she's dreaming a little bit, but that is part of her job, cheerleader. Yeah, she's got to get people to try to do, what she needs to get done, and it's just the nature of her to be that way. Plus, one would think that she's probably trying to make the McCain name, have a better connotation to it, to try to undo some of the things that Trump has said about her husband and associated, therefore, with their name. I'm sure she's trying to take her thoughts off all of that negativity that's been thrown her way.
I understand you on that. I want to ask you about something a little close to U.S. shores, and that is Haiti. I know you were recently visiting.
Yeah.
There's been an uptick in migrants to the United States from Haiti, which is now largely controlled by gangs. How do you keep the food you are getting into that island nation out of the hands of criminals and into the mouths of starving children?
Well, you're exactly right. The country is extraordinarily insecure. I literally came to New York from Haiti yesterday. It's extraordinarily insecure, and the gangs are controlling a large portion of the country. The importance is that the international community needs to be in there to not only help keep the country safe, but to help us enable our organization, other organizations, to be able to move the grains around and move food around in general. The idea in Haiti, which is such a lush tropical island, but it is also affected by climate change. It's also affected by land use that's been disastrously taken, with regards to all the insecurity and all the issues that we face with this. The important part of this is to remind the world that Haiti is still here. Haiti needs our help. I think the world community has taken a step forward and kind of forgotten Haiti a little bit. So my job, having returned from Haiti, is to remind the world that Haiti is still there. It still needs our help. It still needs food. It still needs security, and it needs to be able to prosper in a way so that they don't lose a generation of children, and that we can, again, not only feed women and children, but make sure that they can feed themselves in a sustainable and resilient way.
Okay, the world does have a tendency to forget about Haiti until we get into the hurricane season, and a hurricane, devastates the area or something of that sort, flooding, whatever. We had a few more comments. We had Jim. The shortfall of Ukrainian food exports is just the beginning. North American food grain production will soon be falling due to climate change. Jim also said, world needs to reduce its population, not keep allowing it to grow. I agree, Jim. Andrea said, that's okay. We do want the world to be fed and the children to be fed, but don't misguide yourself into thinking that other countries are adversaries or going to help or want to, right? You have to realize which countries do want to help. Those are the ones that are helping. You need to keep encouraging those countries. They can't even feed Wrong countries and their own people. Yeah, there's a lot of countries that are not feeding their own people. Don't expect them to help you. Talking about her hair. WW says that Cindy McCain needs to be optimistic. She does. It is part of her position, her job. Andrea says, doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with it, Ken. McCain's already got a good name because of John McCain and what he did and what he went through. Just need to prove anything. Okay, yeah. So you don't believe that her presence here has anything to do with trying to change the perceived reputation by some in the Republican Party. Okay, good. Thank you for the contrasting opinion. I just really just threw that out as a question. WW says, when food starts getting scarce, people start hoarding, nations start hoarding, armies even. Yes, they do, unfortunately. There's a final section on this on climate change.
Broadly speaking, extreme weather is a factor that's affecting crops and migration. You've said climate change is influencing the situations in a number of the examples you just gave. Where are you seeing it impact the most?
Well, one of the places is the Sahel. I mean, if you could see what's down there and see the impact that the climate change has had on it. So what we are doing with regards to the Sahel and other regions, particularly in Africa, is water management, teaching ancient ways, which are very simple to do, but ways to not only catch water, contain water, but then use water, obviously, to grow things. It's a tremendous issue, though. And climate change, not just in Africa or the Sahel, climate change is worldwide. And we're going to be seeing, we're having to manage crops now that have to be more resilient to drought.
That's definitely true. Climate change is worldwide. And so the things we do in these industrialized countries are in part contributing to these food situations, the lack of water, the lack of ability to grow crops because of the lack of water and so forth. So
our animal feed and things have to be more resilient so the animals can be more resistant to drought. There's a lot of things at stake here. And I think when people talk about climate change and those naysayers that think climate change isn't real, I'd like to take them to the Sahel and show them what's real.
Are you talking to anyone in Congress to take them with you?
I'll take anybody. I'll take anybody with me. I want them to see what's at stake here because there really is a lot at stake. And I think the more we can show people, it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to see it.
Cindy McCain at the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was really interesting, Wes. I thank you for sending that to us. You did have a comment there. We have plenty of grain at low prices. They had a hard time keeping the river open last year. Too expensive to ship it another way. Are you talking about the rivers in the United States? I believe that's what you're talking about. So. Sometimes I juggle these around. Sometimes I just go straight into them. There's going to be a series of topics that I'm going to have. So let me see. After this ad plays in the video that I'm trying to queue up now. And I got about 10 more seconds of the ad. So when it gets done playing, I'll stop the video and I'll go back to your comments. Okay, so the ad is done. Okay, we had some comments while I was queuing that up. Jim said to Wes Webb, we really need to get moving on developing these teleport beams, much easier to move stuff around. Yes. We had Heidi coming earlier. Hello to Heidi. I didn't actually say that. Hello to Casper. WW clarifies, Great Rivers, Central United States used to ship grain, couldn't always keep the channels open from lack of water. Yes, we did talk about that a few months ago. WW said back to Jim, probably would scramble the DNA in the food. So those were the things. Okay, so the next topic, let me set the video up. Is that one? Yes, that one. Okay, the next video has to deal with one of the new Florida laws that went into effect yesterday. So one of the new Florida laws that went into effect yesterday is called Permitless Carry. I believe we mentioned that last week. And what has been going around the news on multiple channels is an explanation of how that does not affect, how that does not affect what happens at the airports, because the airports are controlled by the TSA, and the TSA is a federal agency, and therefore they are responsible to adhere to federal law. So let's listen to the news report.
And guns. The new permitless carry law goes into effect this Saturday, and TPA wants to make sure you know the rules.
ABC Action News reporter Stasi Olmos is at the airport today. She's learning just because you can now legally own a gun and can carry it concealed without a license does not mean you can bring it on an airplane.
Last year, the Tampa International Airport ranked 10th in the nation for the number of firearms TSA caught. Miami and Orlando were also in the top 10, but TPA's police fear that the new permitless carry law may bring more guns into the airport.
If you come into the airport.
Now, let me just stop it right there. 10th in the nation was Tampa, and Miami and Orlando were within the top 10 as well. So this is basically saying that lots of weapons are being confiscated in these Florida cities when people go to the airport.
With the weapon, past your terminal, it is a misdemeanor second degree in Florida, which is punishable by 60 days in jail and or $500 fine and up to 6 months probation.
Tampa Bay airports are already seeing a 26% increase in firearms found at TSA checkpoints in the first 5 months of the year compared to last year.
Everybody's got
26% increase in firearms.
Different reason. I forgot it. You hear them. I was at the range yesterday. I forgot to pack my bag. I haven't had this bag for a long time.
While many incidents are in fact accidents, in today's climate of mass shootings, the thought of a loaded gun on an airplane is a frightening one.
It's a big concern, but I'm sure we have enough security in the airport to deal with it. So, but you know, nowadays you can't be too safe when it comes to protecting yourself, especially even in airports. So people have been going a little bit crazy.
I've got daughters who go to college in Virginia, and so I'm at the airport a lot. I feel like when you go through security at the airport, you obviously can't take a gun. I don't mind if someone is permitted to have a gun, concealed carry or whatever, to be in the airport if they have a permit.
Just this past weekend, airport officials in New Jersey and Pennsylvania stopped 2 loaded guns from ending up on airplanes. Across the country last year, TSA caught more than 6,500 firearms. 88% were loaded.
6,542 firearms. 88% of those firearms were loaded. What happens to the guns that are confiscated? The TSA keeps them. They don't get those guns back. Good evening, Aaron.
Travelers can legally fly with a firearm in a locked hard box inside of a checked bag. It must be unloaded and declared at check-in. If not.
So it has to be in a hard box. It has to be unloaded. It has to be a declared check-in. It's not a carry-on. So definitely, still have to adhere to all of those rules.
It will be a Class A misdemeanor. You'll more than likely be arrested. It's going to ruin your trip wherever you were going.
TSA also recently increased the fines for a firearm caught at one of their checkpoints. Even if it's an accident, it can now cost you near $15,000. And
so it can cost you $15,000. Casper asked, oh, you're welcome, Jim. Casper asked, if you drive or take a train or bus out of Florida, are you allowed a gun? If you're driving your car, it's your vehicle. You can do what you want to do, but if you are stopped by a police officer, you're going to have to obey the law. You're not going to be able to maybe have that gun in full view. You might want to obey the law. If you take a train or a bus, I would imagine you have to adhere to whatever policies are in effect there. Let me see. Train. Does Amtrak have TSA? Because I've never been on Amtrak. Okay, Amtrak says prohibited items in baggage, firearms, or ammunition. They're accepted on many trains with restrictions. So where does it say here? See if I can make that bigger so you can see it. Firearms are accepted on many trains with restrictions. Black powder, percussion caps, or any ammunition used with a matchlock, flintlock, percussion cap ignition system, or similar type are never permitted. This includes self-loaded, gunpowder-based modern ammunition. So there's you click on this restrictions. Rifles, shotguns, handguns, darter pistols, BB guns, compressed air guns, including paintball markers, ammunition, and taser guns. Then it says show details. Carry-on is not allowed, so that's consistent with aircraft. Checked is allowed up to 50 pounds and a size up to 62 by 17 by 7 inches. It accepts reservations for firearms and ammunition with carriage between Amtrak stations and on Amtrak trains within the United States that offer a checked bag service. Throughway bus services are not included. The following policies are in effect. Notification that the passenger will be checking firearms ammunition must be made no later than 24 hours before train departure by calling into the reservation department. The passengers must travel on the same train that is transporting their checked firearms and ammunition, so you can't put it on another train. Must be checked at least 30 minutes prior to scheduled train departure. Some stations require this to be even earlier. All of these items must be unloaded. They must be in a hard-sided container. The passenger must be the sole person with possession of the key or the combination to the lock. And it gives weight restrictions. Smaller firearms must be secured in such proper securing materials, so you can't like put a little gun in a big case. And they must be declared in the baggage. Ammunition must be in the original manufacturer container. In fiberwood or metal boxes or other packages specifically designed to carry small amounts of ammunition. So you can't just like throw it in your bag and throw it in there with your underwear. And the passenger is responsible for knowing federal, state, and local firearm laws for the jurisdictions into which he or she are traveling. And all the other stuff applies that normally applies to your baggage. Can't have it in carry-on. They have to sign a 2-part declaration form. And BB guns and compressed air guns must meet all these same requirements. So, yeah, there you have a lot of that. Where are we? We were on this video. I don't know how much more she had to say in her report. We have something new from the producer, and I don't know what I've been missing in your chat, so let me try to catch up on that as well. So let me go back to we're good, thanks. Okay. Pleasant trees. Pleasant trees. Pretty hard to drive a train into the Pentagon, Jim says. Casper thanks me for looking it up. Yeah, it is interesting. You know, I'm not a train traveler. Last time I traveled on a train is when did I travel on a train? Well, it was post 9/11. Wasn't going very far. I was just going on a Chicago commuter from Downers Grove to Chicago. Didn't really have anything much with me, just like camera and stuff. So anyway, and you see, get down to the new comments. Jim cracks a joke, says, yeah, you have to declare that Abrams tank you stuck in your pocket. Andrea says, I'd love to do the train thing, but now I'm rethinking that. Pence was all out of shape that the Ukrainians didn't have Abrams yet, says WW. I'm sure that was on the morning shows. Okay.
Whatever TSA takes, you won't get back. Reporting at the Tampa airport, I'm Stassi Olmos, ABC Action News.
Okay, so we do have 100% clarification that if the TSA takes your firearm, you will not get it back. Okay, now we did have something new come in, so I need to look at that quickly. So please talk amongst yourselves while I do that, because I have an important message. Okay, so this is something that was necessary to show the audience opinion by the Florida GOP. I might send it through, or I might just see. So let's see, can I get it without going through the other route? Florida GOP. Florida. Oops. Would be nice to be in the box to actually type. GOP. Yep, there they are. Okay. Is this? Yep, there we go. We got it. Okay. That's quicker than sending it through the email. So this is what our producer wanted you to see. the opinion of the Florida GOP on Twitter. Got it. Okay. This is what did they just tweet this? Or is this does it have a time of day on this? But they tweeted this yesterday. Okay. So this is Florida GOP's opinion. The free state of Florida just got more free, and they're tweeting about the permitless concealed carry law going into effect yesterday. So that was their opinion. Many of us would disagree with their opinion because we do not feel as though everybody walking around with a gun that has maybe had no training at all is more freedom. Jim says, if I'm not driving, I take Amtrak. It's fun. WW says they have to train the tank operators from scratch, not to mention that Ukraine can't spare that many of the best guys to lead the front. WW still talking about the Abrams tanks. They can have all the guns that I own. Okay, so. And Andrea said yes earlier, clarifying that that tweet was from yesterday. Okay. Back to the topics. So my next topic, and I want to make sure to see, do we have, I think this is the right video, so I think I can just play this video, but let's make sure, because I looked at a few of these news stories and the videos that were associated with them had somehow changed, and they weren't the videos that were actually associated with the stories. Plus, I'm waiting for it to play the ad, because you do not need to see the ad for the thing. Okay. So this is the video that I want to show you. Just need to make it pause so I can start it from the beginning. Okay. So a lot of you may be wondering about the price of fuel. And how much is the price of fuel set by the fact that, okay, hurry back, Andrea. WW says, I'm not even a socialist. They should like me in Florida. I'm old and relatively well-to-do, government pension, don't you know? Andrea's modding her house, says Jen, taking out the trash. Okay, so we're getting another thing coming in. See. Hang on, let me check that out. Okay, that's new. Thank you, producer. So let me send that one to myself so that I can play that, because I definitely do not have that one. Okay, it's on its way. Okay, the next topic that I was going to play is the new gas pump device penalties go into effect, and this is about when. And you're going to get a local news story here, but you're going to hear something about gas pumps and what's been going on, particularly here in Florida. And, you know, a lot of times you think that only the gas companies are responsible for the oil prices and the price increases at the pump. And they are, pretty much they are. And, you know, supply and demand and all that sort of thing, and where we're getting the oil from does have an effect. But there's another thing that has an effect on the price that you pay at the pump, and that's how many people are stealing it. And so that's what this story is about.
Law banning the use of gas pump manipulation devices goes into effect tomorrow, and that law carries penalties of third and second degree felonies.
The legislation was passed based on exclusive reporting by News 6. Investigator Mike Holfeld has their story.
It all started as rudimentary technology designed to manipulate diesel gas pump pulsars. Those are the devices that calculate the price we all pay at the pump. Now, effective July 1st, use of any version of that device is illegal in the state of Florida.
Now you're looking at that thing and you're going, how do they manipulate something that's like a spinning device and is measuring the pumping out of the fuel? And you're thinking, how can they manipulate that? It's one thing to think that you see them manipulating something so they can steal your credit card. But apparently people have designed a device that can then manipulate the pump and therefore trick the pump into thinking that it's pumped a lot less than it has.
How important will this be going forward?
This will be huge for us.
Lieutenant Corey Kissinger, criminal intelligence officer with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, FDACS, co-authored the retail fuel theft legislation.
From my original draft to where it is today, the language in the statute would address all devices.
Kissinger tells News 6 the new law anticipates the evolution of the gas pump manipulator, a homemade device that didn't even exist 3 years ago. Investigators tell News 6 this law is the game changer for law enforcement across the state.
In my experience, they will keep doing it until they get prison time.
37 yeas, 0 nays, Madam President.
The new law, approved unanimously this past legislative session in Tallahassee, does just that.
So you saw that it was unanimous, 37-0, that it went through. And, how many times do we get something that, goes through unanimous like that? But nobody wants to pay more for their fuel, especially diesel, because I don't know how many people we have now that are driving all these pickups that run on diesel.
The bill carries a charge of a second or third degree felony for use of the device. In Florida, that means one thing, a maximum of 5 to 10 years in prison.
That solution wouldn't have happened.
And they don't even talk about the fact that, if you have a job that you can't have a felony, there goes your job too. Boom.
If it wasn't for the advocacy that y'all brought to the table.
State CFO Jimmy Petronas says WKMG's reporting was critical in bringing the need for the new law to Tallahassee.
That story protects Floridians, but it protects our visitors who keep our cost of living low.
This is going to.
Now, most of the time, I'm not super happy that guy is a Republican. But, anything that stops the theft of fuel and therefore keeps the prices down, you can't fault anybody for that just because they're not your favorite political party.
To save people that buy gas in the state of Florida tens of millions of dollars annually. And we're very proud of that.
FDACS Commissioner Wilton Simpson says the legislation gives state and federal law enforcement agencies the legal tools that were missing to combat the pulsar devices.
We now have those tools, and thanks to you and a lot of great reporting that you've done, that we're in this position.
Simpson tells News 6 law enforcement teams are getting ready to launch a full court press.
Try to get a search warrant
to put the new legislation to the test.
So this will be a coordinated law enforcement effort around the state, and I believe it'll bear a lot of fruit.
This retail fuel theft legislation is the first of its kind in the country.
Okay, Jim made the comment. Criminals are already stealing gas, are going to worry about that penalties are higher. Isn't that the argument for why there shouldn't be more severe gun restrictions? Well, the thing is here, if you can get them on these second and third class felonies, you've got them on a felony. There's plenty of jobs where a person can't have a felony and be able to maintain their job. So, if just charging them with a felony is enough for them to lose their job. You don't get your job back if they don't prosecute you for it. You get charged with a felony, you've lost your job. So that really should scare most people. Andrea makes a point. 200 new laws went into effect today or the first. Yes, and we're going to talk about that tonight.
In terms of impact, investigators are telling me we will see dozens of arrests statewide. Mike Holfeld getting results, News 6.
So I really like Mike Holfeld. He is a great reporter, and you know, all of my Orlando area stations have reporters like Mike that work on their teams. So they were good people before the crime and became a felony. Not exactly. No, they were not good people at all. It's really just a matter of trying to stop them. But the thing is, you know, if all you do is slap them with a small fine, a misdemeanor fine, then they're going to keep stealing it. Because if they're not paying for the full price for the fuel that they're taking, they're just going to keep doing it. It's not a disincentive to give them a fine every so often. They'd still save money. So yeah, you want to stop them completely. So that's the thing. Okay, going up to the immediate submission that we had during the show, waiting for the ad that's in that to play. Let's get the ad. This is a Texas Paul video through Midas Touch. So thank you to Texas Paul and Midas Touch, and let's watch what Republican leader threatens America in new bizarre video. This should be interesting. How did you get this law passed? The trucking industry. Interesting.
So Senator Rick Scott of Florida tries to warn me and folks that think like me, telling us we can't vacation in Florida, saying that we can't move to Florida. Well, try to stop me, buddy. Try to stop me. You know, I'm not even kidding. Watch what he said here.
Senator Rick Scott here. Let me give you a travel warning. If you're a socialist, communist, somebody that believes in big government, I would think twice. Think twice if you're thinking about taking a vacation or moving to Florida. We're the free state of Florida. We actually don't believe in socialism. We actually know people, and some people in our state lived under it. We know people lived under socialism. It's not good. It's not good for anybody. So if you're thinking about it, if you think about coming to Florida and you're a socialist or communist, think twice. We like freedom, liberty, capitalism, things like that.
He doesn't even know what a socialist or communist is. He has no clue. He has no clue at all whatsoever. You know, he is just such clueless man, you know.
Folks, your average person, your average conservative person in Florida wouldn't know socialism if it bit them in the butt. You see, Florida loves socialism. They absolutely love socialism. They love the federal government taking care of all their ports. They absolutely love that when Hurricane Ian devastated Florida and the next hurricane that comes, they're going to do the same thing. See, they've got this public-private partnership in their emergency response system in Florida. Well, it completely collapsed under Ian. And they even put on the front of their webpage, call FEMA. Yeah, they loves them some FEMA down in Florida. They loves them some FEMA down in Florida. And we're not socialist nonsense. Never works. It never works. You know, folks, down in Florida, you've got the epicenter of power for Florida Republicans is a retiree village called the Villages. It's a retirement community full of old folks that vote against their own self-interest, that sit there and do things like what Rick Scott just did.
Well, it's true that there is a center of people in the place known as the Villages, but there's also another half of that area known as the Villages that has people that vote for the Democratic Party. And, you know, I wouldn't say that everybody that is retirement age and above is voting Republican. Probably a significant amount are, you know, it could be about 50-50. But in any city, excuse me, in any city, and the Villages is included in this, even if it's a predominantly retirement community and you say, okay, the majority of those people are going to vote Republican because of their age, their upbringing, and so forth. Some of them are not going to be able to take care of themselves. Most of them are not going to be working in the service industries that provide their groceries, their medical care, their haircuts, their nails, all of that sort of thing. They're not going to be running a gas station. They're not going to be doing just about everything that these people need to do. So even when you have a community that is predominantly retired, where a majority may be voting Republican, you have a bunch of people that are there that are not retired, who have children of their own, who are working hard for their wages, who are Democrats, who are voting Democratic. And so there's a counterbalance there in the Villages. And it's about 50-50, Republican, Democrat.
They sit there and they claim, well, we don't like socialism, but hey, did my Social Security check come in? And they love their Medicare, their government health care. And they love the military down there in Florida too. They really love the military, that socialist organization, the military. Yeah, the government run, government funded, government benefits, government everything. They love the military, but they like to run their mouths. See, what he's really doing here is he's attacking me, liberals. People that believe that the government should function. It does important jobs, you know, like making sure your meat's safe. When was the last time you cooked up a nice medium rare steak and you were scared that it was going to kill you? Way to go, government. You know, government inspection of meats. Or when's the last time, and I use this example all the time, when's the last time your child was sick or your grandchild was sick? You gave them medicine and you were afraid that medicine was going to kill them. That used to happen, folks, a lot. Yeah, that's why we created those whole government institutions that make sure your medicine's safe. Yay, government. Big government. Love it. Love it. I do.
I'm going to stop to answer this question. Who is this? This is Texas Paul. He is a political commentator. He appears on Modest Touch Network, and he has his own video shorts like the one you're looking at. So that's what you're looking at is one of his video shorts. It's not so short, though. It's 8 minutes long. And so he does this and he does other things along the way. He appears on other shows. We have, if this is the real one, we have Boston Brian in the house, but I'm not sure. So we'll have to see if that's the real Boston Brian.
You know, they do too down in Florida, all that, you know, parks money that goes down, that federal parks money that goes down to Florida. They just love it. Love it all. But then they'll sit there and say stupid things like this because they don't know what a socialist is. Because they're stupid. Rick Scott is a thief. He is. His company stole more from Medicare than any company in history.
How much time did you spend on manual busy work last year? You know,
Okay,
the
we got a
repetitive
quick
little
ad.
tasks that you have to do in order to keep your business running. Let's
Sorry about these ads. They
He
come
got busted for it. It's just a matter of record. Google it. Look it up. But then he sits there and he talks to, and this message was for poor Republican voters in Florida. That's who this message was for. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for everybody else. It was poor Republican voters in Florida. And he's telling them, you know, the home of the Proud Boys down in Miami, those kind of people, this was a dog whistle for them. We warned you not to come. So, you know, whatever happens, that's on you. You know, the kind of people that are out protesting out in front of Disney waving Nazi flags. That's happening, folks. That's really happening. That's who this message was for. It's to greenlight violence, greenlight hatred. So let me tell you something. Let me be clear about it. You know, I get people all the time tell me in my comments, because I am a liberal. I do believe the government does good things, and I don't think Republicans are idiots. So I get people in my comments all the time telling me, take your cowboy hat off and move to California. Man, go to hell. I'll tell those people, you know, I'll respond to those people, move to Russia.
Good for you, Texas Paul. Yes, you have to stand up for what you want to do. Part of the beautiful freedoms of being a United States citizen is being able to dress the way you want, as long as there are not dress codes where you're going. And you're one handsome looking man, Texas Paul. Keep dressing the way you like to dress.
I made a video one time making a joke saying, we'll start a GoFundMe to move you to Russia. But I'm not telling people they can't live here. I'm not warning people don't come to Texas. No, man, we're liberals. We want you to come. You know, we're going to correct what you say. We're going to make you feel a little uncomfortable. We're not going to take all your Bible shoving down the throat stuff and all that nonsense. But hell, man, we'll take you to dinner, buy you a beer. Try to educate you a little bit if you talk politics. We're not going to warn you you can't come. You know, damn sure not going to make you think that you're you know, we're threatening you with violence. We're not. It's not who we are. We're better people. We're just better people. And that's what this boils down to, folks. This boils down to what kind of people we are.
It's definitely true. Sorry about stopping with your eyes closed, Texas Paul, but that is the truth. It matters what kind of people you are. And for the most part, the people on the Democratic side are better people. We can occasionally find people on the Republican side. And usually when I say this, I'm talking about the elected persons. Because even though there are many Democrats who do not agree with me, there are people that vote Republican because they don't realize that they're voting the wrong way. So there are some people that are mistaken that are voting Republican that are really good people, but there's plenty that are not. And as we can see examples from those people who speak on TYT and people like Jimmy Dore and such, there's plenty of people who call themselves Democrats who are not really good people because the only thing they care about is their ideals and their power structure.
This is a sitting member of government. This is a senator, a United States senator, issuing warnings, travel warnings to fellow Americans to not come to his home state. It's not okay.
Definitely
it's not okay. And it's a big part of what's wrong with Republicans and conservatives. They think they can do that. They think they can try to tell me where the hell I can and cannot go, what I can put up in my yard, my own yard. It's not okay, folks, and we're not going to let it happen.
if we could tell people what they could and couldn't put in their own yard, I'd tell people to take down all their 2020 this and 2020 that signs. I think if you can't get it down within 1 to 2 weeks, there's something really wrong with you. Unless your candidate won and you want to celebrate a little bit longer, in which case there should be something tied to that says thank you, like if you're somebody who campaigned for your candidate. But for goodness sake, if you still have political signage and stuff up in your yard, we aren't even in the midst of the real campaign yet. And nothing you put in your yard is going to change or sway my vote.
We're just not going to let it happen. So, Rick Scott, you can kiss my ass. And anybody that thinks that I won't go to Florida any damn time I choose, well, they can kiss my ass too. Y'all have a wonderful day, folks. I need you to reach down and hit the like button on this. Right, while I got you, reach down, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get this message out. Share this video. That's your part of this. Share this video with your friends. Love you, folks. So Texas Paul out.
Hey, thanks, Texas Paul. Okay, that was really good video. That was really good. We're really glad that we got that through our producers. So let me just check this message. Okay, I got something I got to send my producer, so I'll take care of that briefly. Okay, hang on there, producer. I'll get you what you asked for. So let's go to this. I think this is the actual video. Then I will play this and I'll once again, gotta wait for. No, that's not the one I wanted. Let me mark that unread so I use that later. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's the one that actually has it on it. We were talking about this earlier in chat. 200 laws go into effect in Florida. So let me just wait a few seconds for the ad to play. Yes, I think this is the right video. Because a few of these news stories, the story and the video just don't match up. But this one does. So, okay. New Florida. So this is a hot story. 200 new laws go into Florida. They activated yesterday or very soon. So let's go into this story and play it.
A controversial bill is now a law this evening. The new Permitless Carry law allows anyone who previously was eligible to get a concealed weapons permit to now carry a concealed weapon without that permit. And it's not the only new law in Florida. More than 200 new laws went into effect today. News 6's Jerry Askin is breaking them down for us.
The bill passes.
Among the new laws now in effect here in Florida, and perhaps one of the more controversial of them all, constitutional carry.
The biggest misconception is anybody can carry.
It allows residents over the age of 21 to legally carry a firearm without a permit, though it must be concealed in public. But there are still restrictions, including places where you still can't carry a gun, like schools, bars, and courthouses, for example. And though supporters say responsible gun ownership doesn't start with a permit, some Central Florida local law enforcement leaders are sharing their concerns about the new law.
There's going to be more firearms present. That's what the concern is, from road rage incidents to bar fights.
I just think it's going to lead to more deadly encounters between our citizens and even more deadly encounters between law enforcement and the public.
And then there are new education laws, including a law that prohibits Florida schools from using state or federal dollars on programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, and eliminates college courses that deviate from the, quote, classical mission of what a university should be.
DEI is better viewed as
standing for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination.
Dr. Melinda Hole is chair of philosophy at Stetson University in DeLand and calls it an increasing invasion of classrooms.
Anytime that you're saying that something can't be on a syllabus, that's the indoctrination.
The Tyree Sampson Act now adds more restrictions on amusement rides in the state, including more employee training and mandatory signage for height and weight requirements. All after 14-year-old Tyree Sampson.
Okay, they're about to tell you what I was going to stop to tell you, but 14-year-old Tyree Sampson got on a ride, and he was allegedly strapped into the ride, but he wasn't properly secured, and he fell out of the ride that propelled him and others off the ground. He fell to his death. He was killed, and so this new law is meant to stop accidents such as his from ever happening again.
Fell from the Orlando freefall ride at Icon Park last March.
My child did not deserve to die. Words could describe the feeling I feel, man.
And of course, we're always getting results for you. We have a list of many of these new laws on our website right now. Just find this story at clickorlando.com. In the newsroom, I'm Jerry Askin, getting results, News 6.
Okay, so they do have that. You go back to the foundation of the story. I really just wanted to play that video so that I could answer the needs of the producer and get into that. So we will go show this. We'll talk about those laws. We already talked about permitless carry. That's one of them. That's too big. Better. Okay. So we already talked about the first one, the second one. But it does detail all the things you need to know about that. A 6-week abortion ban. New law that bans abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy also goes into effect on Saturday. That was yesterday. The law will make Florida one of the most restrictive states in the country for women's reproductive rights. However, this law will not go into effect until a decision is made in the Florida Supreme Court about the state's 15-week abortion ban. So good evening. Welcome, Dem Boston Brian. Dem Boston Brian. Welcome to the chat. Those of you who know Dem Boston Brian know that he is a broadcaster as well. Those of you who don't, you just found out. So check him out. Gender transition ban. A law outlawing gender transition care for minors also goes into effect. This law will impose a penalty for up to 5 years in prison for doctors who violate the ban. A court could also temporarily remove children from their family's home if they receive gender-affirming care. Another new law will establish the right for a healthcare provider to opt out of giving service because of conscientious-based objection due to religious, moral, or ethical beliefs. Education laws, diversity and equity inclusion initiatives of state college and universities must be defunded by Saturday. That was yesterday. Also, public school employees are prohibited from calling students pronouns other than those matching their gender at birth. I really wonder about that one, you know. Like if you do at birth, if you have both male and female genitalia, then what do we call you? The use of TikTok will be banned on devices owned by school districts and through internet access provided by a district. House Bill 477 will also impose an 8-year term limit for school board members, which is down from 12 years. I mean, that seems like you could remove people that are really good that should still be on there, but at the same time, at least all of these people getting on there that are crap will not be there for more than 8 years, so it might bite them in the ass. Florida State Bill 766 also goes into effect, which allows school districts to use cameras designed to capture pictures of drivers who illegally pass school buses. That's a good one, especially when the lights are flashing and the stop sign is extended when kids are either boarding or getting off a bus. Yes, bust these people. Good evening, Benny Loco. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that Rand may have broken his leg. Take care, Rand. You take care of yourself too. These laws are in line with Republican Party platform. The analyst who works for News 4 Jacksonville, Florida, said that there's the Republican-Democratic divide nationally and in the state of Florida. But back in November, Florida went to red, a supermajority in the legislature, which sometimes gets forgotten. Clearly, the governor had a resounding win at nearly 20-point win, the biggest in 4 decades. It's not surprising that in its legislative session in 2023 that a lot of legislation is consistent with that supermajority, or that the Democrats are opposed to it. Some of these laws, however, will not be active until October or January. One is the state budget, SB 2500, for the next fiscal year. And we talked about last week how DeSantis vetoed $510.9 million from the budget. We talked about how that affected the public broadcast stations in the state of Florida. This HB1 expanded taxpayer-funded vouchers to Florida students and eliminating income eligibility requirements. So they want to give out more vouchers, presumably because they want kids to be able to go to private schools, because that's usually the deal with the Republicans. They want them to go to Christian schools. HB3, prohibiting government investment strategies that consider environmental, social, and governance, or ESG standards. Yes, we've talked about that before as well. HB5, eliminating Enterprise Florida, the state's business recruitment agency. That's a stupid mistake. Putting it over to the Department of Economic Opportunity, which will be renamed the Department of Commerce. I mean, that might be a good idea. It might not be a good idea. You'd have to know the inner workings of that to know whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. Really, I think you should have a separate entity recruiting businesses to Florida so that you continue to make jobs. Senate Bill 102, those first few bills were all House bills, making changes to try to expand affordable housing, including boosting funding for housing and rental programs, providing incentives for investment, and encouraging mixed-use developments in struggling commercial areas. That sounds good if it actually works the way it's supposed to work. But the real question is, where does it really apply? Senate Bill 106, linking hiking and biking trails. That's probably a good one. But this one's not so great. Preventing credit card companies from tracking firearm and ammunition sales to a separate merchants category code of gun businesses. They're obviously worried about their Second Amendment rights with that Senate Bill 214. House Bill 225, allowing opening remarks of up to 2 minutes on public address systems before high school championship events. The change came amid a legal battle about whether a Christian school could have been able to offer a prayer over the loudspeaker before a championship football game. If it's happening in a Christian school, they should be able to, it's probably people that object to that because their school is not a Christian school. Senate Bill 240 offering tax breaks for businesses that employ apprentices or pre-apprentices. That sounds like a good one. Senate Bill 262 placing restrictions on large online companies about collecting and using consumers' personal data. That's probably a good one. Senate Bill 264 preventing with some exceptions property purchases in Florida by people from China who are not U.S. citizens or permanent U.S. residents. That, of course, is the Republicans who think that, somehow they can keep China from buying property and making money here in the United States by renting it out, leasing it, using it for Airbnbs, all that sort of thing. Interesting that they passed House Bill 389, allowing school districts to provide free menstrual hygiene products in schools. Surprised they weren't taking them away. House Bill 411, changing residency requirements. Jim says SB 264 will be struck down by courts. It probably will, Jim. House Bill 411, changing residency requirements for county school board members. Require school board members to reside in the districts they represent by the date they take office rather than by the time to qualify to run. Yeah, you really should have to live where you are going to regulate the school board. Senate Bill 540, allowing prevailing parties to cover legal fees and challenges to local government comprehensive growth management plan changes. Just wonder how much that's going to cause the state if the state is going to challenge somebody on growth plans. Because legal fees can be really steep if you have a rich, expensive lawyer. Welcome, TV2 Live. We talked about this before. House Bill 637, barring automakers from offering direct-to-consumer or online sales if their vehicles are currently sold through dealerships in state. Senate Bill 846, banning state colleges and universities employees from accepting gifts from foreign countries of concern, namely China, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Russia, Syria, and Venezuela. Senate Bill 902, placing additional salary requirements or safety requirements on amusement rides. We saw that in the video. And naming that bill after 14-year-old Tyree Sampson, who was killed when he fell from a ride last year in Orlando. That's a good one. House Bill 931, prohibiting colleges and universities from using political loyalty tests in hiring, admissions, or promotions. True. We shouldn't really be able to do that. So good. House Bill 1035, spelling out various rights of teachers, including a right to control and discipline students and to challenge certain directives from school districts they believe violate state law or state board of education rules. Interesting. I mean, this State Board of Education definitely does things in line with the Republicans. Jim says Senate Bill 540 probably written to apply to specific projects some developer is planning, possibly. House Bill 1259 requiring school districts to share portions of local property tax revenues with charter schools. There we go again. Trying to redirect the money that was set aside for public schools to go to charter schools, and you can guess which ones. The ones that are Christian. You want to send your kid to Christian school, you should have to pay for it, or your people of your church should have to pay for it. Should not be coming out of public funds. Unless it's to pay for something that is state mandated in order to be certified, in order to ensure that the school meets the requirements, so that when a child receives a diploma from that school, it is known to be valid and that they've actually learned something. But the idea that you're funding any religion out of public money when not everybody agrees that people should be allowed to have a religion, and certainly do not agree to what the religions are mandating people do with their bodies, in particularly women. You shouldn't be giving them tax money. HB 1285. Expanding and making permanent the Florida State Guard, which DeSantis revived last year. The State Guard will expand from 400 members to 1,500 members. You want to guess what he's going to do with that? He's probably going to send other states to, quote unquote, protect the border. HB 1305, requiring the Department of Transportation to conduct inspections of Walt Disney World monorail system. The requirement comes amid a long-running feud between Disney and DeSantis. SB 1318, extending liability protections for aerospace companies if crew members are injured or killed in space flights. Sounds like they want to make sure that SpaceX doesn't get sued if the rocket blows up. Sounds like they want to leave it up to SpaceX to decide what's safe and what isn't, rather than, having some recourse if the Starship blows up. HB 1379, directing $100 million a year from real estate taxes to the Florida Forever Land Acquisition Program, and requiring a plan on how to improve water quality in the Indian River Lagoon watershed. So I'm definitely for improving the water quality in the Indian River Lagoon. Definitely for that. I don't know if that's as much as the Democrats would have wanted. That $100 million a year doesn't sound like a lot. HB 1521, imposing restrictions on which bathrooms transgender people can use at schools and public buildings. It will require people to use bathrooms that line up with their sex assigned at birth. Again, what sex do you have if you have both genitalia? And it really gets me. I mean, does Ron DeSantis have a male and female bathroom in the governor's mansion? Does he have the same in everywhere he goes? Does he only use a hotel room that has more than one bathroom? I just don't know. There's plenty of places where the same or different sex use the same bathroom. Why does this have to be such a thing? I know it's because of rape or the perceptions that more rapes will happen. But rape does not involve just disparate genders. So what we really need to do is we really need to get rid of or control people who are sexual offenders and stop imposing the will of the Republican Party on everyone else because they are sex offenders. SB 1580, establishing right for healthcare providers to opt out of providing services because of conscience-based objection based on religious, moral, or ethical beliefs. That's going to be a problem because there are plenty of church-related hospitals. I mean, you make it possible for a hospital to say that they will not operate on somebody because of their condition. And you're going to, in many cases, possibly cause someone to lose their life because somebody will not operate on somebody who had gender assignment. And that someone that's not going to operate on that person may be the only person qualified to operate on that person. I can understand if you don't want to perform an abortion. But this is so vague that it basically says that if the doctor doesn't want to operate on you because they don't like your chosen gender, you are screwed. At least that's the way it reads. SB 1604, nullifying agreements reached by Disney and former Reedy Creek Improvement District Board. You know, of course, we talked about this before, that the board has been replaced by the DeSantis appointed Central Florida Tourism Oversight District Board. So they nullified that, supposedly. I think, though, that case is still coming up, and we'll talk about that more tonight. SB 1718, tightening penalties on people who bring undocumented immigrants into Florida, requiring hospitals to submit data about whether patients are in the country legally, and providing $12 million for a program that allows Florida to transport migrants to other parts of the country. Again, we're deciding who does and doesn't get health care based on who they are, instead of worrying about the urgency of the case. House Bill 7063, providing wide range of tax breaks, including holding a series of sales tax holidays and creating sales tax exemptions on diapers. Also will reduce commercial lease tax starting in December. So he's giving more, the Republicans and this governor, Ron DeSantis, are giving more tax breaks to people. You can imagine what for. It's to say, well, we gave you tax breaks when I was governor, and you should vote for me for president because I'll do the same as president. And Senate Bill 7064, increasing penalties for adult entertainment businesses that do not verify the ages and identities of workers. This bill is designed to help curb human trafficking. Well, yeah, let's please curb human trafficking. Okay. Jim says need a national ban on the public funding of charter schools. Would be nice. Jim says, I bet the folks who are qualified to inspect the Disney monorails are the ones who are trained by Disney. WW says Artemis can't blow up under no circumstances. Well, see, Artemis, being that it's made by companies, but it's commissioned for and built for NASA, it is quote unquote a NASA rocket. That is a government rocket. So there's a limitation on what you can do to the government. You already have limitations on that. The idea that they're putting limitations on what can be done to commercial companies is trying to extend the same things to commercial companies. WW says, we have businesses that have changed single-sex bathrooms into unisex bathrooms. They don't even remove the urinals. They added Kotex and put a lock on the doors. Jim said, I thought forever Florida was going to end. Andre responds, it's a cesspool of GOP. Well, at least in that last one, they're finally catching up to the 1980s. Andre says, Twitter's dying or almost dead. So we did do the laws. We talked about this before. There is this law that has affected the businesses, particularly Hamburger Mary's in Orlando. And so this is a story about that, advertising. I'm going to play the video. Oops, would be nice if we had audio.
Developing tonight now at downtown Orlando Burger Restaurant, known for its drag shows, celebrating a major legal victory over the state today. So a federal judge has blocked Florida's new Protection of Children law, saying it unfairly targets drag performers and violates First Amendment rights.
So the state blocked the law, letting them have a little bit of a reprieve for a while.
Mary's restaurant in downtown Orlando filed the lawsuit. News 6's Troy Campbell is there tonight.
The judge's ruling prevents the state from enforcing the controversial law anywhere in Florida. The attorney who filed the lawsuit on behalf of Hamburger Mary says the judge's order is overwhelmingly in their favor.
He figured it out. This is an anti-drag bill. This is a denial of free speech.
Attorney Gary Israel reacting to a federal court ruling, temporarily halting the controversial Protection of Children Act.
The government has no business doing certain things, and preventing citizens and businesses from exercising free speech rights will not be tolerated under the United States Constitution.
Following a hearing earlier this month, on Friday, federal court judge Gregory Presnell issued his first ruling in the case, granting Hamburger Mary's request to prevent the law from being enforced. The judge stating, the harm to plaintiff clearly outweighs any purported evils not covered by Florida law, and a preliminary injunction would not be adverse to the public interest. The judge also saying, focus on prosthetic or imitation genitals or breasts raises a host of other concerns not simply answered. What are the implications for cancer survivors with prosthetic genitals or breasts?
Indeed. What are those implications? I mean, are we going to go after people because they have these items as medical aids and someone challenges whether they're male or female because maybe they saw them without such devices and then they see them with devices? What stops the Florida law from overstepping its bounds if it is allowed to persist?
The order also cited a March 3rd social media post by Republican Representative Randy Fine, which reads, HB 1423 will protect our children by ending the gateway propaganda to this evil, drag queen story time.
Which is a totally disingenuous comment by him because he supports a sheriff who dressed up in drag to do a charity event, namely the Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey. So how can you support the sheriff for dressing up in drag and then say you don't like drag performances?
Spokesperson for Governor Ron DeSantis releasing a statement saying in part, quote, "We believe the judge's opinion is dead wrong and look forward to prevailing on appeal."
So you might expect they did file an appeal and they're trying to overturn the judge's decision.
Israel says businesses shouldn't have to operate in fear of cultural or political attacks.
You don't have to wait to be bitten by a snake to know that there is danger there. Hamburger Mary's and other venues in the state of Florida that put on drag performances or drag parades have stopped doing that.
Israel also says he's confident that the ruling will not be overturned on appeal, adding the judge in this order stated he felt Hamburger Mary's would prevail in trial. In downtown Orlando, Troy Campbell, Getting Results, News 6.
A controversial bill.
Okay, so that is something that has been going on because that's been affecting those businesses. And when you go to a business like that, I mean, you're going because your parents want to go. It's not like, you know, you're at some place where you're not informed what the business is about. So it's not like you're dealing with this being a place in the airport or something, for instance, and suddenly you walked in and went, "Oh my goodness, what is all of this?" No, it's not like that. I think maybe this is the same thing as something I did earlier. Let me see if there's anything in here that's different. There are some other statements in this related to those two most recent stories. So let's just see, is this the right video for this? No, that looks, they're talking about renters' rights, so that's not the right video. I don't know that there's too much else to. There's a comment here that relates to that, though, which I will show. So rather than read the whole thing, I will show you the comment that's within the article. Comment is by Senator Shervin Jones, Democrat, Miami Gardens, who issued a statement blasting the measure on the day DeSantis signed it.
Glamour is back in a big way in Bax. Luxurious, decadent spaces to unwind and get back to feeling like you have the world at your fingertips. Modern, sleek, sexy, classy, functional. Why settle for one when you can have it all? Transform your bath into a timeless space that you can enjoy every morning and night. Don't wait any longer. Make your dream bathroom come to life and meet with your design consultant today at SNWK.
Okay. Finally found the button to mute the audio. Don't know where that's playing from, but obviously it's playing from the background. Sorry about that. Okay, getting back to what I was going to talk about. Senator Shervin Jones, Democrat, Miami Gardens, issued a statement blasting the measure on the day DeSantis signed it. These continued attacks on the LGBTQ community and young people are at a center of DeSantis' misplaced priorities and wildly out of step with where Floridians actually are on these issues. And that was speaking about the law targeting drag performances. So that was his statement. That is new. The other thing that's in this article that we didn't talk about before, another proposed rule teed up by Education Department would put in place requirements for internet safety policies that school districts will have to adopt. These policies apply to students' internet use on devices owned by districts and on device owned by students when connected to the internet provided by schools. Prohibits students from accessing social media platforms except when expressly directed by a teacher or for educational purpose, and targets the popular social media app TikTok. TikTok prohibited on district devices or other school internet. So even like, you know, the people working at the school, the teachers, the staff can't use these things if they're using the school internet. So that was in there. Is there anything else in there that's in that article? Probably not much. School districts will develop a form of parental consent along with any required documentation. Potential rules said to strengthen the rights of parents. Rule will ensure full transparency to enhance the student's record and protect parental rights. I remember that one of the things that they were talking about, and it doesn't necessarily say that in this article, is they were talking about the fact that the parent could even decide what the child wants to be called in school. Because, you know, traditionally, if your name is Robert and you want to be called Bob, or if your name is Andrea, for instance, and you want to be called Andy because you like being called by a nickname, a child could tell the teacher at the start of school, this is what I want to be called, this is what I'm going to answer to, and the teacher would do that. Now they've actually got rules that say that if the parent doesn't want their child to go by a shortened version of their name, they can't call them by anything other than the name the parents gave them. So heaven forbid you're one of those children who got a horrendous name from your parents. Let's change it up, go to this one. So we've been talking about Gen 6 for a while. Okay, so on June 27th, the Associated Press reports Polk County woman, this is Polk County, Florida, pleads guilty to participating in the U.S. Capitol attack. How much zoom do we have? Can we zoom it more? She pled guilty to participating in the Jan 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol following a rally held by then-President Donald Trump. Her name is Corinne Montoni. She is 33 years of age. She lives in Lakeland. She pleaded guilty Monday to felony civil disorder in, the District of Columbia Federal Court, according to court records. She now faces up to 5 years in prison at a sentencing hearing that is scheduled for September 28th. She was arrested in March of 2021, within 2 months of her appearance in the Capitol. She joined others objecting to Joe Biden's election victory over President at the time Trump. A mob attacked the Capitol in an attempt to stop Congress from certifying election results. We know all this. 5 people died in the violence. She unlawfully entered the Capitol through a broken door next to the Senate wing door on the west side of the building. Made her way to the Capitol crypt where she took several videos with her cell phone, one of which she posted to her Instagram account, and she wrote on it, "We're in the Capitol because this is our house. We pay for this, and they're trying to steal it from us. Let's go," she said. She posted on social media throughout the day about her experiences at the Capitol. And on Parler, she wrote, "We breached the Capitol. Oh my God. On her Facebook account, she wrote, "We're done with these traitors. Today we show them how done we are. The Capitol building belongs to us. We the people. This is our house." She's one of more than 1,000 people who've been arrested in nearly 50 states for alleged crimes related to Capitol breach. More than 350 have been charged with assaulting or impeding the law enforcement. Yes, it is wonderful when they provide the evidence against themselves. So, yeah, another person set to receive sentence. Next video. This one is Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner. It is entitled "Trump Lashes Out at Jack Smith's Understanding of the Law," and it has a more to that title. So let's see what Glenn has to say.
Friends, you know the term yelling. Friends, you know the term yelling into the void. Well, with Donald Trump federally indicted.
Give me 1 second, because I can't do anything with his levels, so I'm going to turn on the captions. That'll help you. So he starts out by saying, "Friends, you know the term yelling," and then he repeats itself.
You know the term yelling into the void. Well, with Donald Trump federally indicted in Florida, with Donald Trump criminally indicted in state court in New York, with Trump soon to be criminally indicted in state court in Georgia, with Donald Trump likely to be federally indicted up in New Jersey, and then ultimately he'll be indicted in Washington, D.C. for the insurrection. With all of that, what Donald Trump continues to do is the very definition of yelling into the void.
We really do hope that Trump is convicted of these things which he has been indicted before or which he is about to be indicted.
Let's talk about that, because justice matters.
So this is Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner.
Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, these days, Donald Trump is both literally and figuratively yelling into the void with his unhinged posts and his steady stream of lies on the faux news networks. You know, Trump is like the village idiot sitting in a park yelling at pigeons. You know, what he has been saying.
He definitely is the village idiot yelling at pigeons, and he thinks we're the pigeons. Sorry about the frame grab when I stopped it.
Is so absurd, so juvenile, so unconvincing that all it does is highlight his desperation. Let's look at one of Trump's most recent posts. All caps. Could somebody please explain to the deranged, Trump-hating Jack Smith, his family, and his friends that as President of the United States, I come under the Presidential Records Act as affirmed by the Clinton Socks case, not by this psycho's fantasy of the Never Used Before Espionage Act of 1917. Smith should be looking at crooked Joe Biden and all of the crimes that he has perpetrated on the American public, including the millions and millions of dollars he extorted from foreign countries. Talk about yelling into the void. This inane post on his third-rate social media platform got less than 6,000 reposts and less than 18,000 likes.
Wow, look at that. Less than 6,000 retweets, less than 18,000 likes. His numbers are going way down. He really is losing his supporters, which is good to see. I mean, he still has plenty. Don't get me wrong. But he doesn't have the numbers he had in 2016. So definitely not the same popularity for Trump.
So he's kind of literally yelling into the void. Even the people on his own platform are sick of him. So let's talk about how Trump is figuratively yelling into the void. He keeps begging and pleading some fictitious person or some fictitious entity to tell Jack Smith he's got the law all wrong. We've also seen him say things like, tell Alvin Bragg, the district attorney in New York, he has the law all wrong for indicting me on dozens of felony crimes in state court in New York.
Yeah, he did that too, definitely. Thank you, Glenn, for reminding us. He does not change his modus operandi at all whatsoever. He just keeps repeating it over and over again.
Oh, and by the way, tell all the grand juries that indicted me, they have the law all wrong. Soon we're going to hear Donald Trump yelling about, tell Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis, she has the law all wrong, and those grand juries have the law all wrong once Trump gets indicted in Georgia. You know, friends, there are entire prosecution offices in multiple states and in the federal government at the Department of Justice, multiple prosecution offices and teams that are working day and night investigating and indicting the crimes of Donald Trump. There are judges, state court judges, federal judges who are handling the cases, presiding over the cases in which Donald Trump is criminally charged. And those judges are what? Allowing the cases to go forward. They're not, dismissing the cases because obviously no crimes were committed and everybody has it all wrong except Donald Trump. That's what Donald Trump keeps yelling into the void. Well, you know what, Donald? Keep yelling, because you're going to yell yourself right into an orange jumpsuit.
Amen.
Because justice matters.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Glenn,
Friends,
so much.
as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.
Remember to check out Glenn. He is Justice Matters. Glenn Kirshner, too, on those social media sites. Definitely check out his content. We love showing his content. We are blessed to be able to show his content through permission. And we always make sure that we give him credit where credit is due. Okay, so let's mark that done. So one of the things that DeSantis tried to do, I don't know that this has a video. It doesn't. I have to read this. It's not super long. Okay. Let's get that ready to go. One of the things that DeSantis has said recently is that he cannot be sued by Disney. He's seeking dismissal of the Disney lawsuit, claiming immunity from litigation. Okay, boom. How far did we go with that Zoom? Let me see. 200%. So this is in Deadline. It's a June 26 article. It's by Ted Johnson. Hi, Mickey. Hello. Guy who's never happy. No, that's not Mickey. Mickey's always happy. So what the article says is, attorneys for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis claimed that he is immune from Walt Disney Company's federal lawsuit over his effort to strip the company of control over a special district covering its theme parks and resort in the state. They have taken him to federal court. On Monday of the week, his attorneys filed to dismiss. These are attorneys for the state. It isn't so much as attorneys, but they're representing him as he is the governor. And this is what was said. Although Disney grabbed headlines by suing the governor, Disney, like many litigants before who have challenged Florida's laws, have no basis for doing so. Neither the governor nor the secretary of the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity enforce any laws at issue, so Disney lacks standing to sue them. The attorneys wrote in their motion, which you can read at the link. We could read that, but we really don't want to. We don't want to read a bunch of legalese. Called Disney's lawsuit meritless for many reasons, including that a special district cannot bind the state to transfer a portion of its sovereign authority to a private entity. Really would have to read the thing that created the Reedy Creek Improvement District. What they're really saying, though, is that here it seems they're saying that once this special district, this Reedy Creek Improvement District was dissolved, it doesn't have a recourse to go after the state. This is what the state attorneys say, to have the state reinstate its ability to exist. But that's what the case will decide. Disney filed a lawsuit against the governor in April, claiming that he violated the company's First Amendment rights by retaliating against its opposition to parental rights law, which is commonly known as Don't Say Gay. The company also named as defendants the new DeSantis selected board of the Reedy Creek Special District, which was renamed the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. Or we could say, Crooked Fool's taking over, dude. Sorry, that was a moment of levity. The motion to dismiss, the state attorneys argued that DeSantis is entitled to absolute legislative immunity. That's an interesting phrase, absolute legislative immunity, giving legislative immunity to the executive branch of the state government. I mean, would seem that one would want to say absolute executive immunity for signing the bill that stripped Disney of control of Reedy Creek Special District. They claimed that the immunity covered the governor no matter if his actions were retaliatory. The state contended that Disney could not claim that the governor enforces the legislation because he signed it. When the governor signs a bill, he acts as a legislative, not executive capacity. Okay, I guess legally in the rules or whatever, but it's super confusing because all we ever learned in school is there's the legislatures, legislative people, the people we elect and put in office, and then there's the executive, the one person we elect to sit in office who has a backup called the lieutenant governor in case that person can't do their thing. It just seems strange. Legal mumbo jumbo. State also claimed that DeSantis and Economic Opportunity Secretary do not have power over the new special district board other than the governor's ability to appoint its members. Yeah, you can claim he doesn't have power, but you know damn well he put people on that board that will do his bidding. In the same way that Donald Trump put people on the Supreme Court that will do what he wanted them to do, which is what got him elected, to strip Roe versus Wade and all these other things they're doing. Regardless of how they respond to anything. And that's the other thing. These people sitting on this board because he appointed them, they ain't no special committee that they have to go through to prove their worth. You know, they don't have to sit and be quizzed by the state legislature in front of the public on television to find out what kind of people they are. They just get to be on the board. Disney, of course, had no immediate comment. They're waiting for their case in court. Smart people. Don't make comments. Let DeSantis make comments. Let him bury himself. If you've forgotten, before DeSantis signed this bill stripping the company of its control over the special district, Disney's back members of Reed Creek passed development agreements that ensured the company would still have say over planning decisions and other matters. The state then passed a new law prohibiting the DeSantis-controlled special district from complying with that agreement. After Disney filed this federal lawsuit, DeSantis selected the special district board filed its own litigation in state courts against the company seeking to have development agreements declared null and void and unenforceable. In its own motion, the special district board said the federal case should be stayed until the state court's case is resolved. The board also urged alternative action, a dismissal of Disney case due to the forum selection clause that requires Disney to bring these claims into the circuit court for Orange County, Florida. The district board claimed that the development agreements are void as a matter of Florida law and therefore never had any legal force or existence. So the board that DeSantis put in place is trying to get rid of it too, saying Disney doesn't have First Amendment rights. And that's the end of the story. But that's what's going on between Disney and DeSantis. It's just an ongoing story. And I'm sure, you know, some of you wonder why we concern ourselves with this guy so much. Casper says he wants to be king of Florida outside the law. What he wants to do mostly is he wants to establish the fact that he is a powerful force to be reckoned with because he believes that that's what will get him the Republican nomination for president. He wants to be the badass that Donald Trump thinks he is. In the eyes of his constituents. I think I have two of these interrelated. So the first is directly from Michelle Obama. And then the other is her husband's comment on it, the former President Barack Obama. So Michelle Obama says, I wanted to share some of my thoughts on today's Supreme Court decision, which was done on June 29th. So I just wanted to scroll that up real quick. And this has to do with affirmative action. She writes, back in college, I was one of the few Black students on my campus, and I was proud of getting into such a respected school. I knew I worked hard for it, but still I sometimes wondered if people thought I got there because of affirmative action. It was a shadow that students like me couldn't shake, whether those doubts came from the outside or inside our own minds. Most unfortunate, of course. She continues, but the fact is this, I belonged. Yes, you did. You most definitely belonged. Your life has proved that you deserve to have the education that you have, and you are a wonderful person, former First Lady. I'm continuing. But the fact is, I belonged in semester after semester, decade after decade, for more than half a century. Countless students like me showed they belonged too. It wasn't just the kids of color who benefited either. Every student who heard a perspective they might not have encountered, who had an assumption challenged, who had their minds and their hearts open, gained a lot as well. It wasn't perfect, but there's no doubt that it helped offer new ladders of opportunity for those who, throughout our history, have too often been denied a chance to show how fast they can climb. True, there is no better way to learn than to be around someone who accepts the challenge of their life, their cultural history, and gets beyond that challenge to get an education and to make something of herself or himself. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome. Having to put your phone in the fridge to keep it from overheating. Yeah, that's possible. 105 degrees Fahrenheit, really hot. Getting back to the article written by Michelle Obama. Of course, students on my campus and countless others across the country were and continue to be granted special consideration for admissions. Some have parents who graduated from the same school. Others have families who can afford coaches to help them run faster or hit a ball harder. Others go to high schools with lavish resources for tutors, an extensive standardized test prep that help them score higher on college entrance exams. We don't usually question if those students belong. So often we just accept that money, power, and privilege are perfectly justifiable forms of affirmative action, while kids growing up like I did are expected to compete when the ground is anything but level. Amen. We see this all the time. We see people that are given preferential treatment because they're an athlete, and they're given tutoring and all that sort of thing to help them get through because their forte is athletics, but it's not academics. We have kids who have mental challenges that keep them from being able to take a test a certain way, and they have to have special accommodations. We don't usually question that, although some unfortunately do. But what she's really saying is that people of color are sometimes put on a totally different standard when it comes to supporting what's necessary to support for them to get an education, something to get them out of the economic circumstances that they were raised in, or the challenges that they're raised in that the culture that they live, the place that they live, perhaps the violence that they're surrounded by. And we look upon them differently just because they're people of color and because America has this past where people were judged differently for their color. She continues. So today my heart breaks for any young person out there who's wondering what their future holds and what kinds of chances will be open to them. And while I know the strength and grit that lies inside kids who have always had to sweat a little more to climb the same ladders, I hope and pray that the rest of us are willing to sweat a little too. Today is a reminder that we've got to do the work, not just to enact policies that reflect our values of equity and fairness, but to truly make those values real in all of our schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods. If you're interested in supporting organizations who've long been advocating for this cause, check out, and she gives a list, UNCF, which, we can just let it go by its acronym, or we can go by its traditional name, United Negro College Fund, Hispanic Scholarship Fund, APIA Scholars, American Indian College Fund, the Dream.us, Thurgood Marshall College Fund. So that's her tweet. Thank you, former First Lady. Very informative, very important article of the day. Now, I wanted to show you that the producer also sent me a link to the same tweet, and this has the former president's comment on it. So let's see what the former president, Barack Obama, had to say about his wife's tweet, the First Lady's tweet. He said the following: affirmative action was never a complete answer in the drive towards a more just society. But for generations of students who had been systemically excluded from most of America's key institutions, it gave us the chance to show we more than deserved a seat at the table. I paused there because I almost read that differently. I'm glad I paused because I almost put a word in there that was different. So let me read that again. Affirmative action was never a complete answer in the drive towards a more just society, but for generations of students who had been systemically excluded from most of America's key institutions, it gave us the chance to show we more than deserved a seat at the table. You're probably wondering what I almost said. I almost reworded what he said, and I almost put a "we are" or a contraction in front of more, and that would have not been grammatically correct. In the wake of the Supreme Court's recent decision, it's time to redouble our efforts, says former President Barack Obama. And of course, you see that he's retweeting his wife's tweet. So wanted to make sure that we showed both of their statements on the issue. I have this. DeSantis got rid of criminal justice reform. So need to make this bigger so you can read it. So this is a statement on June 29th. Probably fits better now, by the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Governor Ron DeSantis vetoed 2 criminal justice bills. I don't know why. Is it because I put it? It's probably because I put it in present mode. I can't scroll it anymore all of a sudden. So I'm going to have to take it out of that mode or change its size. Can I scroll it? No. All right. I'm going to have to start it over. There we go. Okay, let's try. Yeah, I can scroll it like that. That's why I lost the ability to scroll it. Okay. Okay, Governor Ron DeSantis Wednesday vetoes of 2 criminal justice bills, both of which passed the House and Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support. Let's reiterate that. Passed both Florida House and Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support. Demonstrate once again that politics currently trump good policy in the governor's office. One of the veto bills, HB 605, would allow eligible adults to expunge a criminal record despite having used one prior juvenile expungement. The legislation was narrowly written and applied only in cases where an individual was not charged, had charges dropped, or was acquitted of the charges. Legislators described the effort as a workforce issue which would have assisted individuals who had never been convicted of a crime to obtain employment. So DeSantis goes around talking all the time that, we're supposed to try to make sure that Floridians can get employment. And, we need to make sure that these people that immigrate here don't take all of our jobs. But when it comes to actually letting people get jobs, if they committed some kind of crime, he doesn't want to have them have a job. So what does he think they're going to do? They're going to have to live off the public tally if they can't get a job. The statement made here by the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, I suspect that's what's in quote. Let me see. Okay, it's by that agency's president, Luke Newman. The barriers to employment for those caught up in the justice system and the demonization of people arrested, even if the charges were unfounded, hurt our economy and should be an affront to Floridians. Governor DeSantis could have worked to right this systemic failure, but he chose instead to pander to the tough on crime crowd. It's stunning that bills with unanimous and near unanimous legislative support are not good enough for the current governor. Yep, all he cares about is winning that 2024 election primary. The second veto bill by the governor, SB 1478, passed unanimously in both House and Senate, unanimously. Not just strong bipartisan support, but unanimously, which means no member of the Florida House or Senate voted against it. It sought to, through the use of alternative sanctions, reduce jail populations for technical violations of probation deemed low risk. So he doesn't want to let people out of jail either. I can tell you why he don't want to let people out of jail, because he don't want people to get back their rights to vote in the 2024 election against him. Newman said vetoing SB 1478 means more people will be in jail for a longer time. It costs thousands of dollars to unnecessarily house these folks in jail. These are people who could be productive members of the society. Yeah, they could, but then they could vote against Ron DeSantis, which is what he wants to make sure they don't do. Governor DeSantis offered no rationale for these vetoes, which were announced by form letter after regular business hours. The veto decisions undermine the clear consensus crafted through hard work by Florida's elected representatives. I can tell you why it's done. You don't want people to get out to vote in 2024. It's consistent with everything he's done so far, consistent with his policy. We went over the veto list. Not sure why I sent this to myself. We went over the things that he vetoed in the bill. Open up that. Okay, go back and grab my email again. I think this is another episode of Justice Matters. And there is a advertising here. So we'll skip that. I'm going to pause this. We'll hold it back. And I think it's playing on me, isn't it? Yep, it's playing. Must have clicked on it. So we have another episode of Justice Matters. This one is Trump audio recording revealed. Proves his classified documents, crimes, and his declassification lie. Okay, when I pulled it back, I was able to read the entire thing. Are they on or off? Okay, turn them on because Glenn tends to be quieter. And play.
So, friends, Donald Trump's violations of our nation's espionage laws were caught on a crystal clear audio recording. And that recording is now available for your listening pleasure. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, CNN just published a Trump audio recording that will be a central piece of evidence and a devastating piece of evidence in the Trump trials. So friends, let's have a look at the new CNN reporting. Headline, CNN obtains the tape of Trump's 2021 conversation about classified documents. And that article begins, CNN has exclusively obtained the audio recording of the 2021 meeting in Bedminster, New Jersey, where President Donald Trump discusses holding secret documents he did not declassify. The recording includes new details from the conversation that is a critical piece of evidence in Special Counsel Jack Smith's indictment of Trump over the mishandling of classified information, including a moment when Trump seems to indicate he was holding a secret Pentagon document with plans to attack Iran. Quote, "These are the papers," Trump says in the audio recording, while he's discussing the Pentagon attack plans, a quote that was not included in the indictment. The audio recording comes from a July 2021 interview Trump gave at his Bedminster resort for people working on the memoir of Mark Meadows, Trump's former chief of staff. The special counsel's indictment alleges that those in attendance, a writer, publisher, and two of Trump's staff members, were shown classified information about the plan of attack on Iran. These are the papers, Trump continues, according to the audio file. This was done by the military and given to me, Trump continues, before noting that the document remained classified. See, as president, I could have declassified it, Trump says. Now I can't, but this is still a secret. Trump's statements on the audio recording saying these are the papers and referring to something he calls highly confidential and seems to be showing others in the room could undercut the former president's claims in an interview last week with Fox News's Bret Baier that he did not have any documents with him. Quote, this is Trump, "There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things," Trump said on Fox, "and it may have been held up or may not, but that was not a document. I didn't have a document per se. There was nothing to declassify. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories, and articles." So friends, now that we heard that absolute nonsense that Donald Trump told Bret Baier, let's go back to his actual words, caught on that crystal clear audio recording. These are the papers. This was done by the military and given to me. And Trump notes that the document remained classified. Still, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't. But this is still a secret. As far as Donald Trump's guilt of mishandling classified documents and national defense information, it's a wrap. That's all she wrote. Donald Trump's own words on that tape will convict him. It's like when we tried drug conspiracy cases and we have the defendant caught on tape, courtesy of a wiretap, saying, yeah, I'm going to need 10 kilos by Friday. It's a wrap. It's all she wrote. And the other thing is, friends, this tape helpfully puts the lies to so many other Donald Trump claims. I didn't have a document. I just had newspaper and magazine articles. Oh, really, Donald? Because on tape, you say, these are the papers. This was done by the military and given to me, and these documents remain classified. And on the classified aspect of these documents, remember how Donald Trump is forever saying, I declassified everything, maybe with my mind, maybe by just taking them with me when I left the presidency, maybe that automatically declassified everything. Oh, really, Donald? Here's what you say on that audio tape. See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is still a secret. Friends, with evidence like this, I can't wait for the trial and the guilty verdict. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.
Okay, so please see Justice Matters in its original form on Glenn's social media. And we thank again Glenn Kirshner for allowing us to show this content. Well, that is everything that I prepared for tonight. We've gone through, yes, he did admit everything, didn't he, Andrea? President Trump, former President Trump, just admitted every single thing that he's done wrong. And now he tries to walk it back and say that he didn't do that. And we still have the people that believe him and think that he's telling the truth when he tells them that he didn't do this or that, when he lies, instead of believing him when he actually tells them what really happened when he was being recorded. So, that's everything for tonight. Is there anything you all wanted to talk about? We did have some people slide in here. I don't remember if I said hello to you, Elizabeth, on microphone. So if I didn't, hello, Elizabeth. Did anybody else slide in here when I was really heavy into my own discussion? Pretty sure I said hello to you, TV2 Live, but if not, I'm saying hello. I just got a text from producer. So let's see. What does producer have? Producer has another submission. So hang on. And if you have some submissions, talk about them in chat, please. Oh, okay. This is our animal segment coming up. We always like to have an animal segment at the end. I didn't find one myself this week. It's coming up. Give it a moment. Should pop in there. There it goes. So those of you who have been following the story of Wendy, Wendy is the cat that was found at a Wendy's location, recovered by our producer, Andrea. The tweet says, Wendy's new home. She is the queen of her castle. She will stay at the fire chief's house until she gains a little more weight and gets a little bigger, then she will go to the firehouse. There's Wendy. Big picture of the cat. She's hanging around right now on the bottom of a desk chair. That's Wendy. She was found in a drain pipe at the local Wendy's restaurant location, recovered and saved. Yes, Casper. Former President Trump tends to talk about everything because he can't help bragging about everything. You know, that's the nature of a dumb crook, or one that appears to be dumb, is to constantly talk about their crimes, his crimes. So we've been going over a little bit of 2.5 hours. How y'all feeling now? Like you feel like you had a full show? Want to come back next week? I didn't see Nick Rich. I guess he's not here tonight. But Nick, if you tune in later, there are 2 rocket launches. They're not confirmed yet. One is on Friday. It's at noon. It's in California time, roughly. It's a little bit after noon. And it's 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you're in Central, it would be 2 p.m. You know, if you're in Mountain, it would be 1. If you're in none of the United States, or if you're converting time, being that it is close to 3 p.m. in Eastern, it would be 7 p.m. GMT. In British Standard Time, or British Summertime. Boy, I want to say that wrong. In British Summertime, it would be 8 p.m.-ish. And 1900 UTC, so converted. That's on Friday. That's a Starlink. That's for SpaceX, one of their private things. Because it is a Starlink mission, it could be earlier than that slightly, could be later than that. Until it's announced, I won't really know what the window of opportunity is for the launch. And then in Florida, on next Sunday, I believe, closer to 3 a.m. Florida time, closer to midnight California time, it's closer to 7 a.m. GMT, 8 a.m. British summertime. Or 0700 UTC, but it's not dead on the hour and it's not really announced yet, is another Starlink mission, except it's launching from Florida instead of California. Those are the launches within the week that are planned, but planned is, you know, fairly well known. Planned is not set in stone. So those are the launches. We did have a launch on Saturday. Did launch here from Cape Canaveral. It was 11 a.m. was the ESA Eleucid mission. This is a telescope that's going to look for dark matter in the universe. So it's a very interesting mission. We could have talked about that. I think what we'll do, though, is we'll wait until they have images to actually look at, and we have something to actually look at and talk about. That's when we'll talk about it. So when they start releasing images from that, but it was a good thing for the United States and good thing for the SpaceX company, because before the Ukraine war, this was supposed to fly on a Russian spacecraft. But because of the war, it ended up flying on a U.S.-made Falcon 9 from SpaceX. So those are the space topics for Nick when he watches later. Thank you all for watching Freedom, Speech, and You. Thank you to Wes Webb. I don't usually thank you enough for providing the virtual living room. People ask about it at times. Thank you to our producer and our mods. Mostly thank you to you all who come every week and devote some time to watch this. Because without you, there's no real reason to do the show. So it's good to have you out there. Keep coming back. Keep liking. Keep bringing your topics. We'll see you here again next week, roughly the same time. Thanks very much. It was 7:05 Eastern tonight. There's a small chance it could be more like 7:15 next week because I do have family FaceTime before it. So if there's a reason why I have to do something that's necessary to get this, but otherwise I'll try to be on at 7:05. I like coming on as close to 7 as possible. And that's about it. Have a good evening. Thank you all. Bye now. Where's that close? Hi. Occasionally I come back to stream after the close because it's important to do so. So I come back to the stream to acknowledge Benny Loco and to say my heart is out to you because of what happened to Rand. I hope that everything turns out well for Rand and for you. I also wave to Mark P. Thank you for joining us at the end of the broadcast. Reiterate what Mark P. said, sending positive vibes and prayers to you and Rand, Benny Loco. Thank you all for joining us. Keep these important people in your hearts. Why you concentrate on making sure you vote in 2024 and every time you can vote to make sure that true democracy is saved. Don't forget to reach out to those like yourselves or to anyone and give them your best. And when you have to, I will use Hal's final phrase to close. When you have to choose between two evils, always pick less evil. Thank you so much. I'm going to count to 10 and then drop out so that my final words are not clipped.